Darren, you mentioned communicating it as part of the overall benefits and rewards strategy. Where do you think pensions sit in that? Do you think that they're towards the top of the hierarchy of employee benefits at the moment?
Probably at the moment, no. But will they be over time? Maybe. And I think it goes back to some of the stuff that Vanessa was saying earlier. I don't think people fully appreciate the impact of the abolition of the default retirement age. I think that will be a big issue going forward, but that will take years to work through. And that poses some challenges for employers, actually. What about if someone joins you in their 60s? For example, it's quite common. As an employee, you wouldn't have a lot of opportunity there or time to actually put in place a decent sort of retirement strategy for that workforce. And if you do, it will cost you a fortune. So I think there will be a changing dynamic within that. I think we need to get people valuing pensions more. People quite rightly and quite understandably are more short-termist. When it comes to, it's the immediate gratification point. And going back to some of the conversation earlier, people have debts to pay off, people are saving for a mortgage, people are starting to raise families a lot later. That means that when people start saving for a pension, they tend to be doing it a lot later now, which means you have to contribute more and you need to get your money working harder. I would like to see pensions go up, the reward strategy. I think the more we can create that trust and confidence, and get people sort of engaged with pensions, then they will do so. And I see these things as pendulums. So we've had a period of massive disengagement with pensions. I think the positive buzz that we've talked about, will start bringing that pendulum back the other way. But there's a long way to go. And it's incumbent on providers, employers, the government and the regulator to provide an environment and provide products that people actually want to save into. We've moved into a quasi-compulsory regime, but we want people to be wanting to save for their retirement, and that's the key thing that we've got to crack.
Is there a chance then with the default retirement age being abolished that you're going to end up with a workforce that is going to struggle to afford to retire?
I think so. Yeah, I think that will definitely come through. That no longer can you just sort of retire someone because of age, which is a good thing. But people will be looking at how they can afford to retire. And I think if you couple that alongside the overall amount of savings that people have with the budget changes, and this is quite a complex landscape now. But actually, we're probably moving away from the cliff edge retirement scenario that we've seen before. And actually, and this has got to be a good thing. So no longer will you get people, retiring on a set date, and then thinking, I need to buy an annuity, I need to replace my work income with some pension income, therefore, I'll take the first offer that I receive. I think it'll be a much more gradual approach, and there's a real opportunity here for the industry and employers to help people with that transition. So I think if we get it right, it could be a real positive for older working and sort of managing the challenges of an ageing workforce.
I mean, we talk about an ageing workforce, but a lot of this is recognition that people are actually living longer. And when pensions first came in, there was never going to be a 40 years of employment and 25 years of pension. It was about 12 years. So the equation doesn't work. And I think the real problem is that people are getting trapped into jobs that they can't do, and employers are having to continue to employ people because there aren't the other employment opportunities in the UK. The actual amount of manufacture jobs has not increased with longevity, so that we are, as employers, needing to retire people and send them away with a pension. But how can we do it without jacking up hugely the input into pensions and savings? So I think there needs to be a better trade-off, and it will be years before we see what the impact of ending default retirement age will be.
Jackie, you mentioned that you have quite a young workforce. How are you planning, you might not have thought this far ahead, but how are you planning to sit pensions into the overall benefit strategy?
We don't have, being a small company, we don't have a huge raft of benefits. So we don't have the typical insurance benefits, etc., as bigger companies do. So for us, actually, pensions will be very much high on that list because there's little below it, if that makes sense. So it's actually a really big investment for the company. Whether it's about compliance or willingness and wanting to do it is almost irrelevant, I suppose. But for us, this is actually going to be a big thing. So we want to do it right, and we want to ensure that the positive messages about saving for retirement are very much part of that communication strategy.